The U.S. has Syria in its sights once again as the White House threatens to take action and protect civilians from the alleged chemical weapons plot that's being talked about right now. But as One America's Pearson Sharp explains, recent U.S.-led airstrikes have already claimed the lives of dozens of innocent civilians in Syria. We want to warn you here, some of the following footage is graphic.
Once again, Syria could soon be under attack from the United States. On Monday, the White House announced it had detected active preparations to launch a renewed chemical weapons assault against civilians and opposition forces. A Pentagon spokesman said the U.S. had recently seen the activity at the Al-Shayrat Air Base, the same airfield the U.S. launched 59 Tomahawk missiles against in April. Yet the spokesman didn't offer any proof to back up the claims or provide any clues about where that evidence was found. But that didn't stop U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley from rushing to condemn Syria.
Well, I think the White House put out a statement, and I think that's accurate. They have seen activities that are similar to preparations of a chemical weapons attack, much like what we saw on April 4th. And I believe that the goal is at this point not just to send Assad a message, but to send Russia and Iran a message that if this happens again, we are putting you on notice.
Despite her statement, U.S.-led airstrikes killed some 42 innocent civilians in Deir ez-Zor on Tuesday. And on June 19th, another 12 civilians were killed in a coalition strike on Tal al-Shir near the Syrian-Iraqi border. The White House claims the recent preparations are similar to those of a chemical weapons attack on Khan Sheikhoun that resulted in the deaths of 87 people. But experts say there's no proof linking Syria to those attacks, and investigations have actually revealed the most likely culprit was Syrian rebels and the Islamic State. Both have carried out numerous chemical attacks in the past, and Russian airstrikes have destroyed chemical weapons factories in cities across Syria, including one in Raqqa last August. Ignoring these contradictions, the White House is content to blame President Bashar al-Assad and warns that he will pay a heavy price if such an attack occurs. Russia denounced the findings, saying there was no evidence of any threat that chemical weapons were set to be used. A spokesman for the Kremlin called such threats against the legitimate leadership of Syria unacceptable.
We call on every nation who has forces on the ground to ensure our work is coordinated. We urge the U.S. to avoid unilateral actions, to respect Syria's sovereignty, and to join our work which is coordinated with the Syrian government.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's comments followed the U.S. attack that brought down a Syrian bomber on June 18th. And while the U.S. warms up for an offensive against Syria, it appears strangely uninterested in attacking jihadist rebels like al-Nusra Front. Lavrov accused the U.S.-led coalition of being reluctant to target Islamic rebels, saying it was guilty of using a double standard.
We still see double standards. Based on our experiences of fighting terrorism in Syria, we have the impression that the so-called al-Nusra is always spared by the U.S.-led coalition forces. New evidence has emerged that al-Nusra is being dropped from the target list. We consider this an extremely dangerous game that must be stopped. Any double standards, ulterior motive, and hidden agenda must be put aside for the sake of an uncompromising fight against terrorism.
Lavrov recently spoke with his counterpart in the U.S., Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, with both agreeing that a highly provocative incident such as the U.S. strike on Al-Shayrat should not happen again. But Britain is on board with another U.S. retaliation as well. UK Defense Secretary Michael Fallon said Britain is absolutely prepared to support additional attacks against Syria.
We supported the last strike. The use of chemical weapons against innocent civilians is absolutely abhorrent. It's illegal under any rule of war. We fully supported the last strike that took out the aeroplanes and the support that they required to drop chemical weapons. And if the United States is considering a similar strike, then we'll support that too.
In spite of his eagerness to back a new U.S. offensive, Fallon pointed out Washington hasn't offered the British government any supporting evidence or explanation. The Syrian military hasn't commented on the warning from the White House, though Syrian media is calling the allegations pure fabrication. For now, it's not clear if the U.S. will make good on its threats against Syria. But with ongoing battles against rebels and terrorists like ISIS and al-Nusra Front, Syria is poorly prepared to face a war with the United States as well. Pearson Sharp, One American News.